Good evening and welcome to iScreemZ. Well, I have no problems recognizing my wonderful guest tonight. What you may or may not know is she also has a completely angelic voice. And I have been diving into my Spotify the last couple of days here. I'd like to welcome the lady that almost invaded the earth, nearly succeeded, Jane Badler. Jane, how you doing?
I love that intro. Very nice. Especially the angelic voice. No, I'm great. I'm really good. I'm in New York City and it's just so fabulous to be here.
Beautiful. Yeah, you know what? I like to, generally when I do these things, I like to start at the beginning and, there's all kinds of great stuff that we want to talk about, V and everything like that. But I'm super intrigued. I want to start right now, if possible, because you got me super intrigued right now. So tell us what you've been doing the last 5 days.
The last 5 days? That's such a good question. Well, I was at a silent retreat.
Yep.
In Austin, Texas, with Deepak Chopra, and I arrived in New York about 2 days ago. And when I got here, I had a very romantic dinner with my husband. We went out, and then I definitely did a little shopping already. I did some yoga. I've walked and basically seen my family. We've had dinners we had Rosh Hashanah dinner on Saturday night with all of my relatives, my New York relatives. And then, last night I saw my son and his wife and my sister because I'm from New York. So yeah, it's been great.
But now you spend most of your time in Australia, right? I'm correct about that, yeah, since we've been talking. Yeah. What were some of your early inspirations as you were sort of growing up in New York and heading towards a career in entertainment?
Well, my dad was an inspiration. He was very charismatic and flamboyant, and he loved dressing up and having costume parties and loved the opera. So I remember going into his man cave, which was his study with all his pipes, and we'd sit there and he'd play Madame Butterfly for me. And I think also I was very inspired by singers like Barbra Streisand. She was on Broadway, I think, doing Secondhand Rose, and I used to sing all her songs in school plays. So yeah, and I think also who's that other one? Shirley Bassey was she was a very big inspiration for me growing up, definitely. And Vicky Carr, who used to sing that song, oh, I don't know, the one about, they're always heartache songs about men, making you sad and miserable. And I used to sing them like as an 8-year-old. Don't ask me why. I'm not sure whether I was preparing myself for something. I don't know.
My goodness gracious me. I gotta tell you, because obviously I've been listening to a lot of your music the last few days. And Black Dove jumps out at me as a wonderful song. Beautiful. But I really was amazed by, I was listening to you did a version there of Can't Get You Out of My Head, which, Kylie Minogue's version is, it's this poppy kind of, which was great. And I loved it, but you slowed it down and turned it into this almost darkly romantic, a little obsessive kind of, that is something else. Where did that come from?
I've always been very intrigued by the dark side, and I'm not that attracted to light pop, but there was something about that song, even though Kylie sings it in the way she does, when it's really about obsessive love. And so I thought, and I was in a band at the time, Sir, and I remember the guitarist saying to me, this might be really cool to slow down. He was the first one who said it. And then after that, I brought in Jeff Bova, who's a Grammy award-winning producer from LA, and we did a track of it. And we had the most extraordinary backup singer, and And then I did a video, a really cool video. So that's kind of the way it happened.
It's amazing, yeah, because that's not easy to do.
No.
To do that, to take something, and I think you were actually talking on Instagram a little while ago about John Farnham, and he's one of the only other people I've heard where he did a version of the Beatles' Help, which is again a happy, and
Yeah.
he really did that kind of made it sort of. So yeah, so I love that track that you did there. Now, acting-wise, you kind of started out in soaps, right? Was it One Life to Live, I believe, was the first?
That was my very first job.
So what was your first steps into the acting world like? How did that feel?
Oh, wow. Well, I had done a lot of singing. I was in Miss New Hampshire, and so I used to sing in all the clubs and at the Playboy Club. But then I went to university, Northwestern. I was a drama major, and when I graduated, I started auditioning for things. And the first thing I got was a play. I got a play called The Fantastics, which had been off Broadway for 20 years. And so I did a couple of plays. And then I got my very first soap opera, One Life to Live, with Judith Light was in. We probably know who she is. She's an amazing actress. And it was really scary because I'd never done television. Never. I'd never been in front of a camera. I mean, at Northwestern, I was a theater major. So I would just remember being absolutely petrified because soaps work very quickly. You do an hour show a day, and you just don't want to mess up. It's very scary. So I had like 3 lines, and I remember pacing back and forth behind the sets. I wouldn't talk to anyone, just going over and over my 3 lines all day long, over and over. And I played a schizophrenic in a mental institution, so it was perfect because I was absolutely crazy.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And you've done a lot of soaps, right? Because I've been away from the UK for 25 years, but one soap over there that was huge was Neighbours. And
Yes.
I didn't realize that I actually just found out the last couple of days that you were on Neighbours as well.
Yeah. I did Neighbours probably 10 years ago. And yeah, that was, oh no, maybe more because Margot Robbie was on it with me. She was on at the time. And she was quite young, so it might have been longer than that. But yeah, Neighbours, it was funny going back to soaps after not being on them for so long, because I think I got spoiled doing nighttime television,
Right.
which especially in America, you have a lot more time. This was even quicker than the normal soaps. Neighbours shoots quicker than anything I've ever seen, and you have to come in super prepared because you have no time to do anything. And the people on it that do a great job, they do a great job. Like, people do not realize how hard it is to be on a soap. You have to come up with every emotion like that. Tears, laughter, anger, just, you have to have it all in your toolbox.
Yeah. Do you have your own, because I know we talk about method acting and all these different things. Do you have your own sort of technique for drawing on those kind of emotions?
Yes. I mean, the thing is that I'm at a point now in my life where those emotions are incredibly accessible. So I think if you've lived a life and you've done work on yourself, whether that's therapy or whatever that work is, you are very in touch with your emotional life. So I don't really have to do any method anymore. I don't have to do, when I was young, I remember literally peeling an onion to cry because I couldn't cry when I was a younger actress.
Yeah.
But over the years, yeah, life is kind of just, life does things to you. So now I don't really need to do much except just go there. I can just go there.
It certainly does. Life certainly
Yeah,
certainly
certainly
does.
does.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So I gotta say, so you One Life to Live, and you did a heck of a lot of TV there, but you had that date with Destiny, V. Now,
Yeah. I was in my 20s. I was desperate to do nighttime television. I was mostly doing soap operas. I was doing The Doctors at the time with Alec Baldwin. He was a soapy actor too before he made it to superstardom. And I had an audition, and they said, you've got an audition out in LA. And in those days, they would fly you from New York to LA first class. to test for things. I don't think they do that anymore. And so, yeah, I flew out and I had an audition for this part of Diana in a mini series, and I was very excited because it was shooting on the Warner Brothers lot, and it was a very expensive mini series. But I didn't have like a big role. I think I had 5 scenes in all of this. Was it 4 hours or 6? I can't even remember. But I got there and they were in a hotel room. There was a lot of people there, and I just remember going in and auditioning. And I didn't think I did that great. But then I went back to my hotel room and I got a little note that said, "Don't leave town." And I went, "Don't leave town." Oh my God, I got it. So the next day I was in prosthetics and they were putting clay all over my face, and that was it. It was happened that quick.
Amazing, amazing. I don't know if you know this, you probably do, but I always like to say anyway. In '84, when the Olympics were being shown in the UK, only BBC could show it. And ITV had to counter with something, so they showed over 5 nights V and V the Final Battle.
Oh,
And V smashed the Olympics in the ratings. Everybody was tuning into that every night to see. So I guess what I want to, did you get that sense of how special it was that you were involved with? Because I mean, especially the first miniseries, that stands the test of time so well.
yeah, no, it really does. It's so, especially now. I mean, then and now, the allegory and what it meant. I mean, it was based on a book that with a very Trumpian-like figure of someone who was able to manipulate democracy. And not making any comments. I'm just saying that it's amazing how it was such a visionary piece of work. So I think that's why people watch it even now and go, "Wow!" They can feel those undertones.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's quite brilliant. When I was shooting it, no, I had no idea. Who can ever have an idea of what they're? And we had no social media then, so it wasn't until like 20 years later that I realized how popular I was, because nobody was able to contact me.
Right. Yeah, and it's amazing how social media is open. I mean, the fact that you and I are sitting, if I were to go back in time and talk to my 14-year-old self and say, "Yeah, you're going to be sitting down having a conversation with Jane Badler," I'd probably laughed at myself. But yeah, and it's funny, I didn't realize until at the time, you like the spaceships and the aliens and the laser battles. But looking at it now, this taught me about fascism, freedom of the press, and like you said, in terms of, relevance today, we just saw this going through COVID with scientists being discredited. It's like, it's so visionary. But yeah, so, but do you have any particular standout memories from being on the set that really stick with you?
Not really. I mean, I just remember walking onto the set and they'd all worked together for a month. They'd all been together a month. There'd been a great tragedy. One of the cast members had been murdered. And I walked on and I was, very shy and at the time. And it was difficult to walk into that. Very difficult to, everyone was very friendly, but they'd already formed very deep friendships. So I just remember how welcome, Kenny made me feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just remember the way he used to direct me. I remember the way he directed me, and I remember how, how I had to have this flirtation with a woman, and how that also had never really happened on television. That I was kind of suddenly realized that my character went both ways, and she had a kind of a very sexual appetite with men and women.
Right,
that
with
was
Christine Walsh, right?
Yeah, but that was
Right.
something that happened on the set. So yeah, those are the things that really stand out to me.
Amazing. Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And my understanding is that it was so expensive that they said that there wasn't going to be a second one, that they weren't going to do another miniseries. And then I guess because it was so successful, they how did V the Final Battle come in after that?
I think because they went over budget. What happened with the first one was because of the death of Dominique Dunn, they had to recast it. And so a lot of things had to be reshot. And the first miniseries went way over budget. So when it became a huge success, they brought in the second miniseries, but they decided rather than go with the vision of Kenny, they were going to go with a more commercial vision that would be less expensive and more commercial. And in doing that, they absolutely ruined. I mean, not to say that the second one wasn't fun, but it was more about action. And so they definitely stripped it of the uniqueness. And as you said, it'll go down in history, which I don't think the second one will. Not like the first one.
No.
No.
I understand what you mean. The second one, it kind of became more about the first one was a lot more insidious. It was an invasion without an act. Hey, look, we're just going to come in and just take over, right? And the second one kind of became about what does the baby look like when the baby comes out, right?
Yeah, well, like I said, they just wanted high ratings again. So they had lots of action and they had the baby and the shock value. Whereas the first one, there was a lot of philosophy in it. It was very philosophical. It was, very deep.
Yeah.
Kenny had thought a lot about what he wanted it to mean.
Yeah. And now I'm going to kind of jump ahead and then jump back a little bit because I want to kind of keep this in the bubble here while we're talking about V. Because obviously Kenny had tried many times to get it up and running again. There were multiple talks about movies on TV and miniseries. And obviously, ultimately, they went with the reboot. So suddenly there's a phone call, I'm assuming, to say to you, hey, we want you to come back and be another variation of Diana. How did that occur? Well,
no, that's not what happened at all. But one would have hoped that's what would have happened, but no. No, I watched the new one from afar, from Australia, and I thought to myself, I have to be on this. Like, I loved it. I thought it was fabulous. I mean, I thought it was, I just loved the slickness of it. I loved the special effects were actually now had come into the 21st century. And so I called the producer from Australia and I said, hi, I'd love to meet up with you. I'm going to be in LA. Well, I wasn't going to be in LA. I flew to LA, met him, and he said, wow, you're amazing. I wasn't thinking of bringing back any of the old characters. He said, but I love you. And then the next year they replaced him and I had to do the same thing again. And they ended up creating a character, but I had to audition with a lot of other people for it. And I heard Angelica Houston audition for it. I had to audition for the role of Diana. So, and I got it. So that was how it all happened.
Yeah, except no substitutes. There's one Diana.
That's right. That's right. But they tried to make me, it was very confusing because I was Diana who was locked away in the dungeon. And now I was a good person. And I was into mankind and the goodness of mankind. But I never was able to leave the dungeon until the very end when they killed me. So it was one of the most unsatisfying characters I think I've ever played,
Yeah, that's so so moving on kind of from V a little bit. You went on and you did the new version of Mission Impossible. You were on that, right? And another show that I really enjoyed with you guys was The Highwayman, where you were.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Were those particular shows the reason kind of for the transition to Australia?
Well, definitely not The Highwaymen.
Okay.
Because that was done, I think that was done probably 5 years earlier. But Mission Impossible shot in Australia. The Highwayman's shot in Arizona.
Okay.
So Mission Impossible shot in Melbourne, Australia, the second season, and that's where I met my husband. And that's why I left LA and moved to Australia.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Speaking about meeting your husband there. I do have to ask you, do you ever, fandom is wonderful, conventions and everything. It's really nice. And social media has really opened up the way that people get to meet their heroes and such. We do know, unfortunately, in this world, though, that there are people that can't quite seem to disconnect the reality from the fantasy. Have you had any sort of unusual experiences with fans that kind of went a little bit too far? Or?
Not really, no, because I am, like I said, once again, I am not in the orbit of my fans. I live in Australia, and I don't, on social media, I don't respond to anything I don't like.
Hmm.
And I block, if anything gets sexual, I block it. There've been some pretty wacky things, so I just block. So that's pretty easy. And that's really kind of it. I feel like I'm in control of my situation. I mean, it's not like I'm, a superstar and I have paparazzi hanging around the building. I think that would be horrible. And I feel for people that have that sort of fame,
Yeah, I see where you're going.
Yeah.
But speaking about your social media, because you bring that up, and I say this to iScreemZ viewers out there: if you're not following Jane on Instagram, you really need to, because you're like a shot of vitamin C in the morning. Like, really, like I swear to God, you're better than coffee. I never know what's coming next on there. I flicked on. I remember one morning you were doing some crazy dance in a nightclub on there. And I was just like, oh my God, this is my. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you really seem to be living your best life, and it comes across, it translates. What's on the horizon for you? What do you want to do next?
Well, I have a couple of pictures coming out, which is very exciting for me. One is a horror fantasy, and I have a lead in that. And that's called Trim Season. And hopefully that'll be in the theaters next year. And the other one is called Ricky Stanicky. It's a comedy, and that stars Zac Efron. And we shot that in Melbourne, Australia, and I play William Macy's wife in that. So that was really fun. So that's great. I can't wait for those pictures to come out. And I'm really involved in philanthropy and producing and I'm really kind of more interested than ever in behind the scenes. I love acting, but I love a lot of things now, I've been trying to write a memoir very hard. I'm trying,
That's amazing. I write a writer myself, so believe me, I know how hard that is, right? But you say about a philanthropy and behind the camera. Talk to me about that a little bit. What draws you behind the camera?
Well, I'm always looking for good projects and a good script. So not necessarily for me, you know what I mean? Sometimes it doesn't have to do with me. And I would say that I have ties with production companies, that if I can find good material, I would like to develop some material. And I'm also, I like to be involved with documentaries. So I have been a contributor financially to two or three documentaries now, which if something, if I like helping, I think film is very important for social impact. I think people can change their perceptions through watching film, and especially documentaries. So that's definitely something I'd like to be more involved with in the future. And yeah, I'm thinking about writing a short film script. I just produced a short film that's just been on the circuit. It's been all over, which my late son wrote, called Sapphire.
Okay.
So I kind of have certain themes that I feel very passionate about, and a lot of it has to do with youth mental health, youth homelessness, and addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very, very important topics. I'm very plugged into that myself
Yeah.
as well. Jane, do you think, there's a lot of talk these days about how, oh, there's no stigma, there's all kinds of help out there, but sometimes I don't know. Do you feel that we're as accepting of mental health problems as they say?
Not really.
No.
I think there's so much shame around it, and people don't know how to treat it. I
Mm.
mean, drugs, drugs, are a mixed science. You can get it right or you can't get it right. And sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But, being able to, soothe mental health with natural ways is very difficult. We all need to be educated about what is mental health and how can we recognize it, and how can we recognize it in young children. The school system doesn't know how to do that, and they really do expect everyone to fit in because teachers are overworked. If you're a bit different, you're a problem. You're a problem. So I think that there has to be a lot of education. I think meditation, spirituality, these things should all be introduced into school systems, as important as math.
Yeah.
Learning how to control your impulses, learning how to control your anxiety as a kid. So yeah, it's definitely, I think we still have a long way to go.
Bless your heart for saying that, because I'm 100% on the same page with you. And it's if I were to walk into a room with my hand missing and said to you, Jane, I've my hand's been cut off. Where people will say, "Oh my God, help the guy." But mental health issues, it's like, well, walk it off. Have a cup of tea. Like, it's just, but
I know.
it's the same thing, right?
And how many, sadly, how many suicides are there? Highly successful people that nobody knew because the shame around the fact that you're not doing so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the more we can talk about it, the more it's out in the open, the more people can, say, hey, I'm struggling. The more people can do that, I just think it's the better.
Beauty. Absolutely beauty. I'm with you 100%. So we're coming up on our time. I know I got to let you go, which I don't want to do, but I got to, unfortunately. 14-year-old me, wherever you are, yes, I have to let her go. I'm sorry, right?
That's cute.
But
I
what I will ask you is, so what can we expect from you in the immediate future? What's coming? Like, is there anything you want to let anyone know about? Any projects that's coming, or?
Well, like I said, these two films, please look out for them. Trim Season and Ricky Stanicky. And next year you'll be able to see them. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm writing this memoir, but I think it's still a long way away, or else I tell everybody. And please follow me on Instagram, because that's really where I talk about what I'm doing, where I am, what I'm involved in. Yeah, so that would be great. I'm Jane Badler World. Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure that we get that link in the YouTube there so that everyone knows. And yeah, please.
Oh, and I just had a video come out. Sorry, a music video. It just came out.
Okay.
It's called Tears of Faith.
Tears of Faith.
And that's the links in my Instagram, Tears of Faith. And I did it with a well-established Australian artist named Parallax. I'm singing. And yeah, and I'm about to work on another music video. So yeah, I forgot about all those things, but yeah.
Incredible. Absolutely great. And you know what? Please finish that memoir, because we want to read it. All right? Please.
Oh,
please.
thank you. Yeah, I will. Okay? I will.
Jane Badler, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.